Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to Nerds on Culture with Stormy B Man for this Monday, July 24th, 2023. And this is number 50 in our series of Nerds on Culture. And let me just put it to you this way: how symmetry happens, divinity happens. It was 50 years ago that tonight's show, the legend known as Bruce Lee, passed away July 20th, 1973. And though we are a few days beyond that particular date, look at how things line up. 50 years, the master has been gone. The legend has increasingly grown and grown and grown beyond dreams. And it's our 50th show. It's the way things happen when they're done the correct way. I didn't plan it this way. As we thought to bring this show to you this evening, we were wondering what we would do for the 50th episode. And then it just came across me like a ton of bricks. Like, wow, how about we just talk about the legend known as Bruce Lee, who is a tremendous part of pop culture, American culture, movies, martial arts, and just overall entertainment at its base end. Because I don't know a person today that has at some point in his life acted out a Bruce Lee moment. And when I say that, what I'm talking about, it could be little kids playing, it could be adults, it could be women. I remember watching the film Love Jones, and Lisa Nicole Parker, I think that's her name, playing in there with Nia Long, and they were talking junk to each other. And she said, "Girl, don't make me have to come at you, okay?" And one of them said to the other one, "What? Don't make me break out my karate." And she made that sound effect like, psh.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like, listen, all of that came from watching Bruce Lee films. If you don't believe it, just look around you, people. It's everywhere. Uma Thurman wearing the yellow and black trim leather outfit with a samurai sword in Kill Bill.
Yep.
That was a take on Bruce Lee's Game of Death tracksuit that he wore in that film. It's just so much. But we're going to talk about it a little bit tonight. We're going to talk about Bruce a little bit, reminisce on what the master meant, the legend known as Bruce Lee. And with no further ado, let me introduce my co-host here in the show this evening. We got Drew Titan in the building. What's happening, man? What's happening?
Looking forward to this one. It was just last week. We was like, what are we going to talk about next Monday? And then it dawned on me. It dawned on you. And the irony behind it was that we're almost 50 years to the date. And we're at show number 50. And I'm like, we really didn't plan this.
We didn't.
We didn't plan this at all. And everybody, if you're a person of a certain age, you know who Bruce Lee is. You've seen, before you even knew the name, you saw a poster of this Chinese guy like this with cuts on his chest, and it just looked cool. It just looked cool. You're like, what is that? Well, that's it. That's the picture. That's the iconic picture. so much to talk about. I don't even know if we could cover it in all one show, but so much to talk about this guy, man. This guy, this guy made America fall in love with the martial arts film. This guy right here. Everything you see, Shaw Brothers and everything. This guy he started it all. It starts with him. You know how we say hip hop started in the Bronx? Martial arts films started with Bruce Lee. It might have been around here and there, but he took it to another level. And again, even if you was born 15 years ago, you know who this man is by way of video games. I can't think of one fighting game that didn't have a Bruce Lee element or a Bruce Lee character in it. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, a Super Punch Out. There was a character named Dragon Chan. It was the most racist things you could ever see, but he was making cat noises when he punched. Dwah, dwah, dwah. I said, look at that. This man is everywhere. The trials that he went through in Hollywood and just in acting. The guy has a in-depth story, and it's actually deeper than Dragon that came out in the 90s. The Legend of Dragon with Jason Scott Lee is deeper than that. They did another movie a few years ago when he fought the Shaolin monk or whatever. It's deeper than that. Bruce Lee was a superstar. He's even iconic in the Black community. He's very iconic in the Black community because you find out, I remember seeing pictures of him in magazines. Now, he had passed about 2 years before I was born, but I remember my dad and my brother, they had Storm, of course, you remember Black Belt magazine, and there was a couple of other ones. And I saw the pictures of Bruce Lee, and he had the big shades with the bell bottoms. And I see like a brother behind him, they're walking with the fitted shirts, the paisley shirts. I'm like, man, this dude, we didn't use the term swag back then, right. But you can see he accepted Black culture. I wouldn't be surprised if he got around Kelly and dapped it up like that.
Listen, a lot of people don't know. I'll drop a few tidbits here, and we can come back and revisit Bruce as a topic. This is just a celebratory moment because of the annual acknowledgement of what has transpired, both with our show and how long it's been since his demise. But Bruce Lee was a person who he was born in America. And he was born in San Francisco. His dad was a leading member of a Chinese opera troupe that was touring the U.S. at the time. And he had brought his wife along with him, Grace. Lee's dad's name was Lee Hoi Chuen. Mm-hmm. And he brought the wife along because she was with child. So he was born here, and I think that they were here for like 3 or 4 months, and then they returned to Hong Kong, where he remained in Hong Kong until he was 18 years old. Now, the story of why he ended up coming back to the U.S. after turning 18 and also to reclaim his U.S. citizenship is worth a show within itself.
Yeah.
But what you have to understand about him was, in America, he was one of the few people that did not see tradition in his own culture, in the culture that he came to know as what was Western, also known as American. And the time that he came along, they would refer to Asian or Eastern as Oriental. They would refer to the Western world as Occidental. And those were terms that they would use to explain or dictate one's place or where they come from, origin. And because he was born here, he resented people just treating him like a so-called Chinese, because the Chinese, along with other Asians, particularly the Japanese, because World War II had just recently happened and everything, and there were internment camps and things of that nature. Bruce railed against prejudice and bias. So he took up with blacks. His first student was a black man by the name of Jesse Glover.
Jesse Glover. Yep.
And Bruce formed a group of guys who gravitated toward him because they were all street guys. Bruce was a street guy from Hong Kong.
Yep.
And come here and met up and hooked up with street guys from the US. And they were all guys who got into fights and stuff like that. And because he had brought something new to that they hadn't been introduced to, which was Chinese Kung Fu, he was able to teach them what he had learned and what he was studying before coming to America. And out of that born was friendships, the development of Western martial arts, the advancement of Western martial arts. But buried beneath the surface of all that was the fact that Lee was a childhood film star when he was in Asia. From the age of 6 years old until he turned 18, he starred in almost 20 films. And he was the equivalent of what Mickey Rooney was here in America when he used to play in the Hardy Boys and shows like that. He was always playing a troubled child, a bad teen, or something like that, a rebel, James Dean kind of guy. And those were serious roles for Lee. He was nicknamed Lei Siu Long, which is the little dragon.
Little dragon.
That was his screen nickname. And so out of that, he carried that to the US with him. Siu Long, they called him. His Chinese name was Li Jun Fan. It is so much history here with this man, but nobody knew he was a child star, and he never told it. It was like he didn't wear that like a badge of honor or anything, because he was trying to make his own way here in the US.
Yeah.
And when he thought about teaching martial arts, he figured that would be a great way to earn a living here. But he was not a master. When he studied Wing Chun in Hong Kong, he was learning under famed Wing Chun master Ip Man. But because of his mixed Chinese blood, his dad was Chinese, his mom was Chinese and German. Ip Man was pressured by other students in the dojo to not teach Bruce because they didn't believe in teaching those that were not of pure blood.
Pure blood.
So what Ip Man did was took one of his senior students and had him oversee Bruce's training. And that was Wang Sheng Lung. And also a younger student under Wang Sheng Lung, William Chung. And those two men were helping Bruce learn the art of Wing Chun. But his learning curve in Wing Chun was incomplete because when he had to return to America, he had only been studying for several years. So he hadn't mastered it. Okay. So when he got here and he would meet martial artists in America, Lee would study with them or look to challenge them because they understood the traditions of martial arts. Japanese wouldn't teach non-Japanese. Chinese wouldn't teach non-Chinese. Of course, Americans, Anglos, blacks, they couldn't learn from certain Eastern arts because of the traditions. So what Lee would do was he would find ways to challenge some students and proponents of the other arts, and he would learn from those matches that he would have with them. He was one of those people that had a photographic memory of how to reproduce something. You show it to him once or twice, and he'd take that information, practice it, and come back a couple of days later, and he can do the form or the art better than you.
He was a savant. I remember Dan Inosanto said that.
Yes.
He was a savant in that aspect.
And that's how he learned. And those group of men that he studied with, he learned from them as well, because some of them were street brawlers, undefeated brawlers. Some of them had boxed. Some of them were in the Navy and stuff like that. So Dan Inosanto, who became a good close friend of his and later a student, also was someone who had learned the Eskrima arts, which is stick fighting. And he was the one that introduced the nunchucks to Bruce Lee.
Yep.
So it's an amazing story that this man has. But as I tried to speak on it, I'm only glossing over certain things because it's so intricate.
It's
like
in depth. Yeah.
So many shows talking about him. But understanding where he came from, what he was doing, he had an epiphany that came to him. And he said that, I know how I can reach the masses in teaching them Kung Fu. If I could play in movies and display my martial art on film, the world can see what I can do. And he knew that he was a savant. He knew he had skills that were unparalleled to a certain degree, with certain speed and power that he was able to generate for only a man who was 5'7.5" and at his most robust 145 pounds.
Yeah.
So when you think about that and the racism that permeated the United States, it was a far-fetched dream that Bruce would become a film star. Now, he made friends and acquaintances with certain people like Jay Sebring, who was out of Hollywood, Roman Polanski, people like that. And he got a screen test. And that led to him getting the role as Kato in the Green Hornet. But what he screen tested for, a lot of people don't even know this, was they were thinking about making a TV series based on Charlie Chan, one of Charlie Chan's sons. And the series was going to be called Number One Son. And Bruce was going for that role. The series was never produced, but he did get the role for Kato. And he had a few other parts in shows like TV shows like Here Comes the Bride. There was another TV series that he appeared in. He did a guest appearance on Ironside. He did a guest appearance on the movie Marlowe.
Is that the movie where
James
he fought on a terrorist?
Yes. Yeah.
That was messed up. That was messed up, man.
Yeah. I mean, Bruce was like, he would pop up everywhere, you know, but Dean Martin had a film that Bruce was choreographer on. And the thing about it was his martial arts prowess, because no one has seen the kind of stuff he was doing. He wasn't doing traditional karate. So they were like, what is this stuff? And he would introduce everyone to it as Gung Fu. Now, with his thick Cantonese accent, he was saying kung fu,
Kung Fu.
was
Yeah.
pronounced gung fu, so
Yeah.
they always spelled it with a G back then. But Bruce introduced kung fu to the Western world. Now, what does that have to do with where we are today? The man who was the childhood star, and he was a star, believe me, his house that he lived in, his parents had servants, and there was one particular servant whose parents served Lee's parents. They grew up together, and Wu Ing was a childhood friend of Bruce's, and later when Bruce returned to Hong Kong in 1970 for a film career, he brought Wu Ing to his home where he and his wife and children, when they were getting ready to start his career as an adult film star in Hong Kong. And Wu stayed with Bruce, with his family, and they acted as Bruce's servants and stuff like that. But Bruce didn't treat them like servants. He respect, they known each other since they were children. Mm. But he was a trusted person. Right. And if anybody really cares to know who Wu Ingen is, he's in Way of the Dragon. When Bruce is meeting the guys in the alley and they're introducing themselves, and he's one of those guys in the alley, and he's the one that Bruce does the kick on and kicks him into those boxes.
Oh yeah. I remember that
high kick and knocks him into the boxes. That's Wu Ing. And oddly enough, when Bruce Lee passed away, nobody thought about interviewing him very much or anything. And Bruce had been dead almost 30 years before someone found him. He was over in the UK somewhere, or Argentina, something like that, one of the European countries. And then by that time, he decided he didn't want to talk about Bruce Lee. But and he passed away, I think, in the late 90s. But he took a lot of secrets with him, because he knew more about Bruce than almost anybody.
Anybody who grew up with him.
To interview the guy. So what a chance missed by that particular guy.
Wow, man.
Now, Drew, would you like to say anything? Because I can talk about Bruce Lee for hours.
No, you're the Bruce expert. You're the Bruce expert. my early introduction, like I said, he died in 73, correct? Died in 73. Bruce, yeah. I was born in 75, but it's like he's been around so long. His legacy lives. I know that's cliche to say, but his legacy actually lives. He was the first actual martial artist that I knew, like on television. And then, when it's like Bruce Lee began a craze in the 70s. You remember that song, Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting?
Yeah.
He started a craze. All those Shaw Brothers films that we that we watched, all of that is spun off. And oh man, Stormy, I forgot to ask you if you had this picture handy. Because what people don't know is that he actually knew those guys at Shaw Brothers, man. And that iconic picture with him in the studio with all of those guys, I didn't see that until the internet. That blew my mind. I said, holy crap, he knew those guys. Can you imagine if they did a film, or if they popped up in a film with him? That would have been iconic. Iconic. Picture the Venoms with Bruce Lee in any film. That would have been iconic, man. But Bruce Lee was that guy. There you go. There you go. Do y'all even know what y'all looking at right here?
On the far left is legendary film director Chang Che, who directed almost every epic Shaw Brothers kung fu film from the mid 60s to the mid 70s. That's Chang Che right there. And to just over Chang Che's shoulder is David Chang.
David Chang.
Next to David Chang is Bruce Lee.
Now David
in between
Chang.
Bruce Lee and Chen Kwai Tai is Fu Xing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Bruce Lee's best friend from childhood, Unicorn Chan, who looks to be looking right at the camera with the sports blazer on.
Yep.
And the other guys are just sorts who from the studio gathered around, because when Bruce visited Shaw's studio at this time, he was already the biggest star in Hong Kong, having starred in The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, and he had been working on Way of the Dragon. So there were a ton of guys there at the studio who were crowding around him, and they were all like groupies looking for his autograph and everything, because he was the biggest thing. And it was like, it happened like overnight almost. So Unicorn Chan with the blazer on was the one who originally tried to negotiate a contract with Run Run Shaw for Bruce to join Shaw Brothers in 1970. But at that time, remember, they hadn't seen Bruce since he was a child star when he left Hong Kong at the age of 18. Now, they saw that he had some success moderately in America when he played Kato on the Green Hornet. And ironically, when the Green Hornet reruns ran in Hong Kong, they didn't call it the Green Hornet. They called it the Kato Show.
The Kato Show. That's right.
So he had a bit of a name before he had even come back.
Mm-hmm.
So this opportunity to be there at Shaw Studios with guys who were grinding out 5 to more films a year, Bruce couldn't get a deal with Shaw's because Shaw's, he believed in the old movie factory system where his actors were under long contracts for like 7 years, and they didn't have any say-so over scripts or roles that they would play in a film. They would just be pulled in, and you star in this is your part or whatever. And it was an old movie machine way of doing things. The old Hollywood MGM studios used to do that back in the 30s when you had Rudolph Valentino and those type of actors and everything. So Bruce was like, I can't do that. And they made like $700 a week or something like that. It was like a very low scale for that time. And Bruce, who had a wife and children, was like, I need more money. I can't do that. So he turned Shaw's down. And when he was about to go back to Hong Kong, Raymond Chow saw him perform on a television show, and they were like, we might be able to do something with this guy, because Raymond Chow had just opened up Golden Harvest Studios. After working with Run Run Shaw for so many years. He was actually Run Run Shaw's right-hand man. So he sent Lo Wei's wife to the U.S. after Bruce got back to the U.S. and offered him an opportunity to come back to Hong Kong for a film. And Bruce was like, I don't like the way you guys are doing things over there. I can't work these long contracts with very little money. He's like, I got a family, I got a mortgage, I got things to take care of. So Raymond Chow offered him like 15 grand for a 2-picture deal, which later became The Big Boss and Fist of Fury. The rest is history.
Wow. Now, David Chang, I did see a bit of a documentary on him. He was a young and up-and-comer, younger, good-looking guy. He used to ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw him was in one of my favorite movies. He was the main lead. It was called, I think it was Deadly Mantis. You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, great film, man. Great film. You know, that character invented the Mantis style. It was a great film.
Right.
I remember. But this is, and there's another picture. That's the picture I'm talking about. There's another picture with him, and wasn't he with which one of the Venoms he was with in the picture? I forget which one.
There are no known photos of him with the Venoms per se, but the main lead stars of Shaw Studios, Chin Kwa Tai, David Chang, Tai Lung, they were all around one another at this time, because this was their heyday. You're talking about this photo here which is dated about 1972.
Okay, I could have swore I saw him.
1972.
I could have swore I saw him. I could be mistaken. I'm more than likely mistaken. I thought I saw him with the guy that played which Venom he was. He was not Scorpio. He was not Scorpion. He wasn't even Chinese. He was Korean. Which Venom he was? He wasn't Scorpion. He wasn't, of course, he wasn't Snake.
The Korean Venom, I forget his name right
now. He always used
kicks.
Yeah. What's his name?
I can't think of his name right now, but no, he definitely wasn't with Bruce because he wasn't even discovered at that time.
Okay.
That's why I'm telling you that none of the Venoms didn't come into prominence with Shaw Brothers Studios until between 74 and 75.
Okay.
And already dead.
Whoa. Man, if this brother had lived a little longer, man, can you imagine? Goodness. This is iconic stuff here, man. This is iconic stuff, man. That's what I'm saying. It's impossible to talk about Bruce Lee in the amount of time we're fitting to do it. So, we're jumping around here.
Yeah.
But it's so exciting. And the reason why we're talking about it is because, Stormy, you got this blockbuster box set.
Yes.
Please tell us about that box set and what is on it.
Well, let me say this about the box set. I've been collecting box sets for a while. I've been collecting film box sets for Bruce Lee films for a number of years. And this year, Arrow Films, which is a company out of the UK that has been producing remastered versions of tons of kung fu films, they produced the Ultimate Bruce Lee box set. Now, for those of you who will be interested, I got a video coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central Time, where I'm doing the review on the box set. But the box set here is called Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest. This features all of his films, the 4 films that he made with Golden Harvest and Warner Brothers Golden Harvest, which are Fist of Fury, The Big Boss, Way of the Dragon, and Enter the Dragon. Now, Game of Death was Bruce Lee's second film that he was going to produce, direct, and star in. And he had begun filming that film in September of 1970. Actually, August of 1973. He came up with an idea for a storyline, but in order to put it together, he just wanted to find different types of people to star in the film. There are also rumors that he was having contractual problems with the triads in Hong Kong after his success for his first 2 films and Way of the Dragon, which was going to be released at the end of the year of 72. And so he wasn't able to just make movies like you might think he would, because the triads, and I don't say this with disrespect, I say it with respect, because the triads were sort of like union. And they ran things. It's like they'd have a piece of what you do, but for that you are able to participate and do things and be looked after and so forth and so on. It's the culture over there. And there are good triads and bad triads. And I'm not here to go into that for you guys, but just know that there's a reason why he only made 4 films in that period of time when so many other actors and actresses made multiple movies.
Yep.
And as I was growing up through the years, I wondered about that. I was like, why did he only make 4 movies when other people like put out 3 movies in a year? Like David Chang was in like 4 movies one year. So was Tai Lung. So it's like it was something to not understand. But as I got older and I read more about the culture, the climate, and things of that nature, I figured it out of why, Lee. And there was also another reason that Lee wanted to hurry up and get back to America and Hollywood, because he understood how the triads worked over there. And it wasn't always a nice thing, but it was something that it was a reality for those over there. And because he had such adopted Western ways, he was hard to convince.
Yeah.
to conform. You understand?
Yeah. Hard to conform. Yeah.
So, but I digress. This box set is the most complete box set of Bruce's films. It has 2 versions of The Big Boss in there. The international version that got released that so many people remember, and one called the Mandarin Cut. The Mandarin Cut is about 12 minutes longer than the cut that you've ever seen in your life before. And I just watched it last night. And I have to tell you, I saw 3 fight scenes in that cut that I had never seen before.
Oh, I want to see that so bad.
Yeah. Now, it also has Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon, plenty of extra features and stuff on here. But the crowning glory of this box set, people, is what they did with Game of Death. When Bruce Lee made Game of Death in 1973, he started filming, January of 73, he started filming Enter the Dragon. Game of Death was partially shot. He had filmed 3 fight scenes and 3 other scenes that were shot in the New Territories. The New Territories were considered the countryside of Hong Kong, the undeveloped, unincorporated, so to speak, of Hong Kong. Lots of mountains, hills, trees, greenery. And he shot 3 fight scenes there. He shot 3 fight scenes on the Golden Harvest set that was supposed to be a part of the pagoda fight sequences that took place near the end of the film. Bruce had edited a version of those scenes and had shown it to some Hollywood people when he was negotiating contracts that would eventually lead to him starring in Enter the Dragon. He was hoping that they could either finance it for him or that he would become big enough star he can do it over here instead of doing it over there. Anyway, long story short, what he left behind was an incomplete film. The footage that was able to be used is about 40 minutes of footage. Raymond Chow, the head of Golden Harvest Studios, after Bruce Lee had passed away, he had put Bruce Lee's widow through a tremendous ordeal of acquiring what was due Bruce as far as monies paid, rights to film and likeness and so many things. And they had an ongoing legal battle that lasted almost 10 years.
Dang.
And eventually they settled. And there's a really, and forgive me, I don't want to digress, but this is important to say. Bruce Lee had written down something during his life. He said his chief definite aim. And in that, he was one of those people that would record what his ambitions were. He said that he wanted, starting in 1970, he wanted to start making films that would promote Kung Fu around the world. And by 1980, he wanted to retire with at least $10 million in his possession, and he can achieve inner harmony and peace. Notice that I just said that he had his widow had a 10-year battle, legal, going back and forth with Raymond Chow over Bruce's stuff. And the settlement was for $10 million.
Wow.
So Bruce's chief definite aim came true posthumously, even though he wasn't around to see it. His family received it. How about that?
Ain't that something?
Yeah, man.
That's amazing. That is
But
amazing.
but Game of Death. Raymond Chow has sold the rights to the film to Japan. So he had to deliver a film. So he brought a crew of people in to write scripts and stuff. And the film that they made ended up being entitled The Game of Death, because Bruce Lee's film was just Game of Death.
Game of Death, yeah.
They called it The Game of Death. They only used 12 minutes of Bruce's footage. But it got released internationally, directed by the same gentleman that directed Enter the Dragon, Bob Klaus, who also later did a film that you like, Jim Cotta. And, you know, it was released to a lot of fanfare because people were waiting to see the footage of Bruce. Now, excuse me. The funny part about that was this. Only 12 minutes of footage of Bruce actual. They used a bunch of shadow stars and stuff like that to play him in the movie. And it was very tastelessly done. They even incorporated footage from his funeral in the film, even showing his corpse in the casket, and which was in very bad taste. I don't know how Lee's widow was able to sit through that premiere and watch that. But long story short, that's what Raymond Chow did. And he even used a storyline that kind of circled Bruce's actual life. A Chinese film star, a Chinese kung fu film star being run down by the mob.
His name was Billy Lowe in that film.
And drove a Mercedes, wore Italian shirts with Ray-Ban sunglasses like Bruce Lee really did in life, and had a Caucasian woman, which Bruce Lee had in real life. I mean, there were so many things people were trying to figure out. Is Raymond Chow trying to tell us something? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because even in the film, the film star is threatened by the mob, and even a murder attempt on one of his movie sets takes place. And that gives him the opportunity to fake his death so he can go underground to come back to his revenge against them. Now, that was the story that Golden Harvest put out for The Game of Death. It had nothing to do with Bruce Lee's actual story. Bruce Lee's actual story was a retired kung fu a martial artist is coming through Korea en route to go home, where his sister and little brother are kidnapped by some Korean mobsters, and they want him to participate in this raid on a temple where some type of a treasure that the mobster, the head villain, wants in this temple. But the problem is each floor is guarded by a martial artist of a specific skill set, and they're deadly. And since Bruce Lee's character was supposed to be this really supreme martial artist, they needed his assistance, but they were going to put in some other guys to help him with this raid on the temple, including the current martial arts champion, played by James Chin, who played Shu Shane in The Big Boss. Yeah. So all of this was the story of Bruce Lee's Game of Death. What the treasure was, he hadn't figured that out by the time they started negotiating Enter the Dragon. But the three stories that he had filmed were guarded by, the third floor was guarded by Dan Inosanto. The fourth floor was guarded by Chi Han Jae, a Hapkido expert of 10th Dan. At that time, he's Grandmaster now, of course. He's 80-something years old. And the top floor was guarded by an unknown source, an entity, which would be played by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bruce Lee's friend from the 60s and student from the 60s, when since he was a sophomore at UCLA, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has studied martial arts under Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
So this was what Bruce was doing. And it was innovative because he was taking people who could really perform martial arts, not so much the regular Hong Kong actors as much, but real physical beings, athletes that can do things. And his ideal was different than what they were doing in Hong Kong at the time. Now it seems kind of weird now because everybody copied that after he passed away. And everybody copied what he had already done many times over. So it seems like it's not fresh, but you have to understand it was extremely fresh what Bruce was doing at that time.
He originated.
Shooting the movie, he was shooting it without a script available to people, so people couldn't steal his ideas.
That's right.
It wasn't that he was doing it haphazardly. He had everything up in his mind, but he knew how Hong Kong people were. And he, even before he passed away, they were already imitating him and stuff like that. Like he had a thing he would do. Let me take this off the screen for a second. He had a thing that he would do when he would film his action scenes. Like when he punch a guy, he could actually touch you. His control was so good, he could touch you without hurting you. Punches or kicks. And he would tell you, don't move or don't react until I touch you. Because if you jerk too soon or too late, you're going to get hit and you could get hurt. So when he was filming his scenes, he was doing this. And other production companies, whether it was Shaw Brothers or independent Taiwan features, the word travels, they were like, oh, this guy is doing this. Let's try it. People were getting hurt on film sets trying to copy what Bruce was doing.
That's funny.
People were getting injured and going to the hospital, man, because he was really an expert, you know what I mean, in his self-control of his body and everything. And the stories went around big time. And you had people that was challenging him on the streets because they were like, oh, you're just a movie actor. You know what I mean? Not knowing that his childhood, the reason he got sent to America, because he was getting into fights all the time.
He was for real.
The fight on the rooftops. The Chinese martial arts schools would fight against each other, and they would fight on rooftops because if they fought in the streets, the police would get them.
Right.
In Hong Kong, they had rooftops where people would have like patio decks and stuff set up on roofs because, housing in Hong Kong was like stacked up, almost like Brazil. You know how in Brazil houses are stacked? It was similar in Hong Kong, but different type of architecture. So those guys were fighting on rooftops and stuff. And they get in trouble with the cops and stuff. And Bruce's parents had to go bail him out of jail and stuff. That stuff went on. So they sent his butt to America.
Yeah.
He was 18, It's like
I think you missed a super chat. It was a super chat now.
Okay, we got TD Harden out there in that super chat. He says, just checking in, about to get ready for work. Appreciate you, TD. Sorry he was cooking on that, man, but not again. But just trying to get a lot of information out in a little bit of time. But appreciate you. Thank you so much for your super chat. But okay, so I've kind of given background on Game of Death. This box set has the feature that Golden Harvest produced. They have another disc, which is the film that was recreated when it was found in the early 2000s, the footage that he had left behind and re-edited. Then there's a last disc called The Final Game of Death. And people, when I tell you that alone is worth the price of this box set, it's all of the footage that Bruce Lee ever shot for Game of Death. All the rushes, all the outtakes put together in orderly fashion to simulate where the story was going. And then there's a complete edit with the finalized versions of each scene shot to make it a cohesive thing And it includes the 3 fight scenes from Out in the New Territories and another pagoda fight scene that only a small clip has been shown. Dan Inosanto beating up Che Yuen, who's on the floor, and he's punching him and kicking him on the floor. The complete scene with Che Yuen and James Tien attacking Dan Inosanto when they arrive on his 3rd floor level. They come up the stairs, and Dan is sitting in his chair like this, looking at them. And Che Yuen is carrying this long log. And Dan Inosanto stands up, and he's got the Kali sticks, and he's knocking on them, saying that shave and a haircut beat.
Yeah.
And James Tien tells Che Yuen, don't let him out. Don't let him intimidate you. Go on and get him. You know, he there's dialogue and everything. So Che Yuen attacks Dan Inosanto with this big log. Of course, Dan, an expert stick fighter and a screamer, he disarms him, breaks that down. And so then Che Yuen tries to fight him hand-to-hand combat. This is the first time you ever seen this scene. Dan throws his sticks to the side and gets ready to throw down with Che Yuen hand-to-hand. Listen, man, Dan Inosanto under Bruce's choreography is bad as hell in this scene.
Oh, man.
He whoops Che Yuen's ass, and then he whoops James Tien's ass, and then that's when Bruce comes up the stairs. But the scene is complete now. You get to see the whole thing. You only used to see when Bruce came up the stairs and he had just beaten up Che Yuen and James Tien. And then there's some scenes where you see a little bit of him fighting James Tien, but none of him fighting Che Yuen. Now you get to see the whole shebang.
Man.
Dan is doing, you remember when Bruce was fighting in Fist of Fury and he was doing his hands like this?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the interesting thing, because in the movie Fist of Fury, when they did the slow motion of Bruce doing his hands like this, he was supposed to be doing something called the Wah Fist, which was Fuck Young Gap's special fist style. They explain it in Fist of Fury, but that's what that was. Well, Dan is using his version of that against them. Man, he's bad, dude. You got to see the scene. I'm telling you.
It's short, man. I don't even know how many other films Dan Inosanto was in. I knew he was for
he
real.
played in a couple of other films. He was in a film with Ho Chung Tao, also known as Bruce Lee. I never liked to call him Bruce Lee. Called Chinese Stuntman, which is pretty good. They got some good fight scenes in there. And then later he starred in Sharky's Machine with Burt Reynolds.
He was in Sharky's Machine?
Yep. Dan Inosanto.
Oh, that in the movies.
Yeah.
Dan, what year was that? 80? 79, 80?
But they filmed a portion of it here in Chicago in Marina City, where that car went out of that building into the river. That's right down on Wacker Drive.
I saw that in the movies when I was a kid.
If you watch that Transformers film where those big giant Transformers come through Wacker Drive knocking those buildings down, that's like right across the street from Marina City. So they be tearing up Chicago like they do in New York on these films, man. But yeah, I'm just saying, it's like the final game of death. Listen, and I told you this when I was talking to you about it. I said, man, I can rest in peace now. I seen the complete Bruce Lee footage. I'm good. Man, dude, there are people who have left this earth and never got to see this. But they finally put it together, Drew and chat, and they put it together so well. It's all been remastered in 4K. So it's looking the best that it can look. And that footage is 51 years old because he was filming Game of Death in 1972. And the first fight scene for Game of Death that he filmed was with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He hadn't been totally mapped out the film yet, but Kareem was the top level guardian, and both Bruce and James Tien fought with Kareem in that scene. So as Kareem filmed the first scene with Bruce Lee for Game of Death.
When Bruce came upstairs and he looked at him, he was like, Man, that was funny, man. That was funny,
Yeah.
man. That was, but man, I need to see that, man. I need to see that. Do me a favor. You can pull up that picture
Which one? The
down
book?
there with the, no, the one I have down there backstage.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Look at that, y'all.
That's Bruce and Jim Kelly.
That's right. It's Bruce and Jim Kelly, man. Yeah, Jim really got along with Bruce, man. And he told an interesting story because, back then it was hard to see a brother make it through the film without getting killed. And Jim Kelly's character, Williams, got killed. And years later, I remember watching him in an interview. He was like, yo, man, look, why you had to die? And he said John Saxon simply just had a bigger resume of films than he did. And that's why John Saxon's character survived and he didn't. So basically he was saying,
but originally it was supposed to be Williams and Lee.
At the end?
Yeah, because John Saxon went around bugging the hell out of the director and producer of the film. He felt like, even though they all got along on the film set, but
right.
even though nobody really knew Bruce Lee, right? John Saxon, who had starred in some television shows and a couple of westerns and stuff like that,
a little bit of a resume.
Yeah, but he felt that he was brought to the movie to add class to the film. Really, it was adding pink skin to the film. But the thing about it was, when he got to Hong Kong and he got to meet Bruce Lee and he saw him on the set and everything, then he was like, oh, you understand?
Yeah.
But the changes had already been put in place. But Bruce had fired the script writer off the set, Paul Heller, because Michael, what's his name? Michael, I can't think of his name right now. Let me pull it up real quick. The writer of the film, Michael Allen. Yeah, Michael Allen, who was the script writer. He had written the movie. Bruce had far more lines of dialogue than was finalized in the film. But what happened was, John Saxon kept going to the producer saying, I think I should be saying this. I think I should be saying that. And so they just kept, and finally the director got pissed off at John Saxon himself and was like, would you get the hell out of here? Stop asking for more lines or whatever. And they said that after the director yelled at John Saxon like that, they never heard another peep out of him for asking to change the script. So they said they wish they had said that to him earlier. Yeah.
I thought he had enough dialogue. Looking back at it.
It turned out that Bruce, with the type of actor he was, remember, he had been acting since he was a kid. So he was actually a pretty decent actor. He just wasn't given a lot to show on that tip with the Kung Fu films. But he understood cameras, he understood emotion, and he understood the physical body and everything, being a martial artist. So he could convey more in face expressions and things of that nature than most actors could do trying to really act or overact. You understand? Which is why now the directors and producers of Hollywood now look back on it and they was like, we freaking messed up. We missed out on this because this man was so talented and everything that they blew it, basically.
Yeah.
If you look at his episodes of Longstreet, where he appeared with James Franciscus, every episode that he was in, and I think he was in like 5 episodes, he took the scenes away from James Franciscus, just like he took the scenes away from the guy that played the Green Hornet, Van Williams. And they actually took the Green Hornet off the air because Kato was more popular than the Green Hornet. And that's how prejudiced Hollywood was at the time. They took the show off the air rather than to have Van Williams lose face and have Kato be the more popular person. They took the show off the air. because the Green Hornet was better than Batman.
It sure was. Man, let me ask you about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay, hold your question for 1 second. Let me say this last thing about the Green Hornet. Bruce Lee was so innovative, guys. You know, you saw George Takei, who played in Star Trek, right? That was an Asian that you saw on with James Kirk and all of them. Then you saw the guy who played Fu Manchu. I forget the actor's name, but they taped his eyes and all of that to make him look Oriental and all of this. But Bruce Lee played Kato as an equal partner to the Green Hornet. Even though he was supposed to be the Green Hornet's servant, he never in a subservient role in that show. And that was due to Bruce Lee. He said that he did not want to show a Chinese being subservient to another. He said, I want to be able to show Kato as a man. And so you will see scenes in the Green Hornet TV show where Van Williams as Britt Reed is talking to people and stuff, and Kato can walk into the room and say, hey, what's going on? And he'll sit on the desk and stuff like that. A servant don't do that. Right. You understand? And he was always saving the Green Hornet. The Green Hornet was sitting up there tied up. They're about to pour some milk
Kato
and everything. And then, Kato, you know,
yep.
You know, so hey, it's like Bruce Lee was very innovative, man, and he did a lot for the Asian community with how he took and played his roles. There is not enough respect, even from that community, of what he did in that regard. Now go ahead with your question. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, that was very important. That actually it leads into what I'm about to ask you. Do you remember the Batman Green Hornet crossover episodes?
Yes.
I think it was 2 episodes. Okay. That was a cool episode too. Is it true that the original script was when they fought that Robin was supposed to beat Kato, but Bruce wasn't having it? And
let me tell you what happened.
Go ahead. Yeah, I want to know about that. They
all arrived on the set that day, and of course the script was given out. Everything was written out. Bruce, you and Robin get into a fight and everything. And Bruce, his philosophy was this. He was like, people could see what Kato did every week on his show, and you watch Robin fight on his show, and they know hands down, maybe Batman and Green Hornet can go neck for neck, but Kato is levels above Robin, right? So when he read the script and it said that Robin defeats Kato, they said that Bruce Lee went into a rage. He threw the script down. He knocked stuff over. He screamed and yelled. He went into the parking lot. He left. He get off the lot in his car. He left. He was like, y'all go to hell. Wow. That was the true part of that. And it was like they had to change it. So they just made it like they fought to a standstill, like a draw or something.
What I remember was that every time they went, I mean, Green Hornet and Batman kind of like canceled each other's out with the hands.
Right.
Kato and Robin, I remember Bruce just throwing kicks at him, and just Robin was just moving out of the way of the kicks. And the fight just ended like that.
But you know every other person that Kato would kick at would be knocked cold with his kicks.
Yeah.
It's like, and you know, they had to slow the film down for Bruce, because when he would punch and kick, sometimes it would be just a blur on regular film speed. So they had to slow his movements down so the camera could pick up and detect what he was doing.
Wow. I do remember that episode. I do remember that. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. But I remember that, man. But that was iconic. I like that. I really
did. If you get the Batman TV series box set, those 2 episodes are included in that.
How many episodes was the 1960s Batman on?
I don't remember how many that was, but I know the Green Hornet was like, I think it was 20 episodes. I think it was 25 or something like that. It wasn't a lot. like a whole season was like
They
15 episodes or something like that.
they even had a episode dedicated to Kato, where he had to he had to fight you know who he fought at the end of the episode, and he beat him too.
Mako.
Yes, that's
Mako,
what it was.
the Japanese guy from Conan the Barbarian.
Conan the Barbarian. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the guy.
But check this out. I bet you didn't know this. See, I hate to, and I'm not boasting. It's just that I know so much, man. It's like I know these things. Guess who doubled for Mako in the fight scenes when he fought Kato?
There was a double for that? I don't recall. Really? There was a double? Yeah. Who?
Dan Inosanto.
Get out of here, man.
Dan Inosanto.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. 704 says that fight scene's on YouTube. I gotta check that out. Oh, yeah, super chat from Spurgood.
Yeah, Spurgood Marshall out there in that super chat. We appreciate you. He says Hollywood is so, only reason why John Saxon was in Enter the Dragon was to validate it. In no way they let him and Kelly and Lee fight along each other. Yeah.
Especially Lee. I guess Lee wanted Williams to survive at the end, but
and it was originally not supposed to be Jim Kelly. It was originally supposed to be Rockney Tarkington, who played Black Samson. You remember him?
Yeah.
Who had the lion in his bar? Remember?
Yeah.
With that big staff.
Yeah.
That was Rockney Tarkington. He was supposed to be in Enter the Dragon. And at the 11th hour, when they sent him his airline ticket to pick him up, he decided, I'm not going over there to play this. He was like, man, this script is racist. That's what he said.
Oh, shoot.
Salute to Eric Jordan out there in that super chat as well. Super sticker. We appreciate you, Eric. Thank you so much for your super sticker, bro. Yeah.
Wow. At the 11th hour. And man, you know, I knew early, man, what type of time I was on. I never liked seeing the black character getting killed in movies, man. But
Bruce Lee saw Melinda, which starred Calvin Lockhart and Jim Kelly, because Jim Kelly played Calvin Lockhart's karate sifu in that film.
Right.
And there's a couple of fight scenes in there with Jim Kelly and Calvin Lockhart having, some fights with some other guys, and also fighting, practicing in a dojo or something. I actually have it on DVD, Melinda. And when Bruce saw that, he was like, what about Jim Kelly? Let's get this guy. So Bruce picked Jim. And as a footnote, I wanted to say this earlier when talking about Bruce. Bruce had met Ron Van Cleef at one of the international karate tournaments. And he was the one that gave Ron Van Cleef the nickname, the Black Dragon. He said that Ron Van Cleef's technique was so good and precise and everything. When they walked up to greet and meet each other, Ron Van Cleef has told this story. He was like, Bruce walked up to me and he says, mocking Bruce's accent, he says, you are the Black Dragon. So, and that stuck with him for the rest of his life.
Wow. Ron Van Cleef, man. Another icon. Yeah, that's right. That's right, DP. Kevin Lockhart, aka Biggie Smalls. Remember that?
Yeah,
Biggie
man.
Smalls.
Biggie Smalls, yeah. Geeky Dan. We're gonna have to do a show on those guys.
Oh, we gotta do that. George Foreman in one of those films, man. Oh, man. That was funny. Oh, we definitely gotta do that.
You see how much we have, how much content we have for Nerds on Culture, man. This is a great show, bro. This is
man. So
see, last week you was drilling them with what you had to offer on the anime. This week I'm able to talk about Bruce the same kind of way, So, and I ain't even scratched the surface on talking about the brother.
Oh man, yeah, there's so much, bro. There's so much, man. But
any other thoughts that you got regarding that box set? Also included is another documentary that was made in 1973, right after Bruce died, called Bruce Lee The Man and Legend in a 1983 documentary called Bruce Lee the Legend. And those are included. Everything has been remastered in 4K. It has lobby cards in there. It has glossy photos from Fist of Fury. And then there's also a dual poster, a double-sided poster. One side is Way of the Dragon, the other side is the Big Boss. And then there's a 300-page book that's included in there about Bruce's time and experience with Golden Harvest Studios. It is the most complete, wonderful set that you can get. Now, this version that I had put up on the screen, this is a limited edition special artwork cover, but there's another cover for these. And you see my video that I put up tonight. I showed a cover on there, and that is in HDR, UHD 4K as well. But this one is sold out already. It's sold out already. So it's like 10,000 copies are gone just like that. So,
I need you to share with the audience the Sonny Chiba. Share with them the Sonny Chiba story, because that's something that we missed, man. We almost had something real special.
Well, as I talked about in this photo right here, the guy in the blazer, that's Unicorn Chan. Unicorn Chan was Bruce Lee's like best friend from childhood, from Hong Kong. And in 1972, Star Sea Films, which was a small independent Hong Kong film company, they had tried to get him to convince Bruce to star in a film of theirs. So Unicorn Chan, he tried to get Bruce. Bruce was like, I'm not interested in working with those people, because that was one of the real low-grade companies, and, you know, they were real seedy. But anyway, they said, well, how about we give you the starring role of a film and you let Bruce Lee choreograph the film. So Unicorn was like, okay. He talked to Bruce about it, and Bruce was like, okay, you're my good friend. You helped me get my feet wet back in the industry, so I wouldn't mind doing that. So Bruce Lee choreographed the fight scenes for Unicorn's film with Star Sea Films. But this is what happened off of that. In that film, Bruce was choreographing it. Unicorn was the star, and Star Sea Film producers were filming Bruce Lee behind the scenes choreographing, and they later took the footage and put it in the movie. Oh. And they made it like Bruce Lee was starring in the film. It was really a snaky thing done, pissed Bruce Lee off. He filed a lawsuit against them and everything, and the lawsuit had to be dropped by his widow after he passed, because it was still going through the court system at the time that he had died. But anyway, also starring in that film was Yasuki Kurata, who has starred with Sonny Chiba in Sonny Chiba's action films, karate films, and Kurata had a direct link to Sonny Chiba. So when Bruce met Kurata on that set, he had asked Kurata if he could get in touch with Sonny Chiba with him, because he had a film offer that he wanted to offer for Sonny Chiba. And long story short, Sonny Chiba had agreed to the project, and he had flew to Hong Kong to meet Bruce Lee. And when his plane landed in the airport, when he got off the plane and he was walking through the airport, he saw newspaper headlines everywhere saying that Bruce Lee had died. Bruce Lee was dead. Bruce Lee's dead. Bruce Lee died. Bruce Lee's dead. And he was looking around. He was like, what? He picked up a paper and was reading the article, and he found out that Bruce was dead. So he just turned right around and left Hong Kong and went right back to Japan.
We almost had it. We almost had it. We almost had a Sonny Chiba Bruce Lee crossover film. We almost had it. Sonny Chiba was there. They were going to talk business. I don't know what kind of movie it was going to be. I mean, I would fathom it would be they start off as enemies and
I can
find out.
tell you the film that it was going to
Oh
be.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please, yes.
The film that it was going to be ended up starring Angela Mao and George Lazenby, and it's called Stoner. That film, the Angela Mao role was going to be the role that Bruce Lee played, and George Lazenby played the other role. And I think instead of George Lazenby, it was originally going to be Bob Wall. But the villain of the film is a Japanese guy, and that's the role that Sonny Chiba was supposed to play. But that Japanese character in the film don't really have no fight scenes or anything. The actor is, I'm very familiar with who he is. I can't think of his name at the moment, but it was supposed to be Sonny Chiba. And Bruce Lee and the Bob Wall, George Lazenby character was supposed to take him down at the end. That's what was supposed to happen.
Damn. Missed it. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable, man. But there's so much. And through all of the things that we've been discussing, we still haven't even like scratched the surface.
No, not at all.
Things
Not at all.
that we could be talking about, man. What I can say in closing is this man is iconic, and we could definitely revisit Bruce Lee again.
Absolutely.
There's been renditions of him. There's been documentaries. There's been movies about him. And there it is. Look at that. Now, what is this right here?
This is a photo set shot that he took on the back lot of Golden Harvest Studios when he was trying out looks for new characters. And these were what they call costume period epic characters that he was going to possibly.
Oh, shoot. I never saw that.
Yeah. You see, these are roles that Lee was thinking about playing before he passed away. And that's it. That's when you see the brick wall behind him like that. That's shot at Golden Harvest Studios. But he also shot some at Shaw Brothers. Here we go. Take a look at these. This was a photo shoot session that he did at Shaw Brothers, with the exception of those two, the one at the top and in the middle and the one on the right at the top. Those are at Golden Harvest, but the ones with him with the robes and the hair braid and all of that, that's done at Shaw Brothers Studios. He was supposed to be playing in a Shaw Brothers epic, a period piece.
My gosh, how did... Oh, I'm so mad, man. I mean, come on. Can you imagine what that movie would have been like?
Dude, Bruce Lee in a
imagine if he faced off with like the Master Killer a few years later?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Come on. Him versus Gordon Liu. Come on, man.
That's amazing, man. It's amazing.
He almost had it. And he had demons, man. He had demons. He did.
Yep.
Goodness, man.
But yeah, man, we're gonna get ready to get on out of here. We know we gotta start your show up, but I would like for everybody who can, please check out my video where I'm talking about the Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest box set. And I wore my Golden Harvest t-shirt this evening, you guys. You see the Golden Harvest presentation. Stormy got his Kung Fu t-shirt on tonight. I just wanted to let you guys know I was in full effect tonight. Full effect.
This is another blockbuster, man. This is the show you get to kick your feet up and reminisce, man. Bruce Lee, very instrumental. There's a lot of things that are instrumental in my childhood, man. Bruce Lee's one of those. He's an icon, man. Bruce Lee was one of those things, man. When I would be home, like, remember those days you stayed home sick, or, I always had a VCR and popping up a Bruce Lee film. There was all but 5 of them that I had, man. But I watched Bruce Lee film or Shaw Brothers film, man. But this guy, and then the video games. He has an influence worldwide, man. So salute to Master Bruce Lee, man. Salute to him, bro, for real. But
now my kung fu knowledge is real, because
very real.
I do Kung Fu Film Focus, and I talk about all these films that's not even Bruce Lee. And do you notice I've never talked on my Kung Fu Film Focus? I've never done a Bruce Lee film because I want to talk about the other stuff. But I know so much about this particular person, man, because I just had this connection with. I used to read voraciously over any material I could get my hands on regarding him when I was coming up. I was 7 going on 8 years old when he passed away. And I remember when my mother read the newspaper to me, she was like, hey, Bruce Lee is dead. I was like, what? I was sitting on the floor. I was like, Bruce Lee is dead? I was like, no. It was something like out of Darth Vader, and when they told him Padme died.
Well, no. Goodness.
Ooh.
Yeah, man. But another blockbuster, man. This is dope. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm gonna run. I gotta go start up this show. But salute to you, Stormy, and salute to everybody in the chat, man. Paul Carrick, salute, man. You know what I mean? Salute, man. This is dope.
Salute to everybody, because we weren't ignoring anybody. We was just trying to get the information out to you guys. But we had a nice turnout tonight as well. I think most people we had out there was almost 30 people, so that was nice. That was very nice.
Awesome, man. Salute to y'all, man. And tune in every Monday, man. We're not talking boxing. We're kicking our feet up and reminiscing on good old times, and we need this. We need this, man. So salute, Stormy. I'm gonna get out of here.
Yes, sir.
I mean, and we definitely gonna talk tomorrow, because you know what's going on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, man. Salute to y'all, man.
Peace to everybody. Shout out to the mighty LDBC, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Yes.